It was the year of the Joker in Gotham and beyond. The caped crusader was nowhere to be seen. It was not an age of heroes. But his arch-rival in the purple frock coat and striped pantaloons was ubiquitous, clearly delighted to have the stage to himself and hogging the limelight with evident delight. He had seen off his feeble competition, but he permitted a few of his inferiors to think of themselves as future members of a Joker administration. The Penguin, the Riddler, Two-Face, Poison Ivy lined up behind the Joker in packed arenas, swaying like doo-wop backing singers, while their leader spoke of the unrivaled beauty of white skin and red lips to adoring audiences wearing green fright wigs and chanting in unison, "Ha, ha, ha!" The origins of the Joker were disputed. The man himself seemed to enjoy allowing contradictory versions to fight for airspace. But on one fact, everyone, passionate supporters and bitter antagonists, were agreed. He was utterly and certifiably insane. What was astonishing, and what made this an election year like no other, was that people backed him because he was insane, not in spite of it. What would have disqualified any other candidate made him his followers' hero. Sikh taxi drivers and rodeo cowboys, rabid alt-right blondes and black brain surgeons agreed, "We love his craziness." No milquetoast euphemisms from him. He shoots straight from the hip, says whatever he fucking wants to say, robs whatever bank he's in the mood to rob, kills whoever he feels like killing. He's our guy. It's a new day, and it's going to be a scream. All hail the United States of Joker. USJ, USJ, USJ. It was a year of two bubbles. In one of those bubbles, the Joker shrieked, and the laugh track crowds laughed right on cue. In that bubble, the climate was not changing, and the end of the Arctic ice cap was just a new real estate opportunity. In that bubble, gun murderers were exercising their constitutional rights, but the parents of murdered children were un-American. In that bubble, if its inhabitants were victorious, the president of the neighboring country to the south, which was sending rapists and killers to America, would be forced to pay for a wall dividing the two nations to keep the killers and rapists south of the border where they belonged. And crime would end, and the country's enemies would be defeated instantly and overwhelmingly, and mass deportations would be a good thing, and women reporters would be seen to be unreliable because they had blood coming out of their whatevers, and the parents of dead war heroes would be revealed to be working for radical Islam, and international treaties would not have to be honored, and Russia would be a friend, and that would have nothing whatsoever to do with the Russian oligarchs propping up the Joker's shady enterprises, and the meanings of things would change. Multiple bankruptcies would be understood to prove great business expertise, and 3,500 lawsuits against you would be understood to prove business acumen, and stiffing your contractors would prove your tough guy business attitude, and a crooked university would prove your commitment to education. And while the Second Amendment would be sacred, the First would not be. So those who criticized the leader would suffer consequences, and African Americans would go along with it all because what the hell did they have to lose? In that bubble, knowledge was ignorance, up was down, and the right person to hold the nuclear codes in his hand was the green-haired, white-skinned, red-slash-mouthed giggler who asked a military briefing team 4 times why using nuclear weapons was so bad. In that bubble, razor-tipped playing cards were funny, and lapel flowers that sprayed acid into people's faces were funny, and wishing you could have sex with your daughter was funny, and sarcasm was funny even when what was called sarcasm was not sarcastic, and lying was funny, and hatred was funny, and bigotry was funny, and bullying was funny, and the date was, or almost was, or might soon be, if the jokes worked out as they should, 1984. In the other bubble, as my parents had taught me long ago, was the city of New York. In New York, for the moment at least, a kind of reality still persevered, and New Yorkers could identify a con man when they saw one. In Gotham, we knew who the Joker was and wanted nothing to do with him, or the daughter he lusted after, or the daughter he never mentioned, or the sons who murdered elephants and leopards for sport. "I'll take Manhattan," the Joker screeched, hanging from the top of a skyscraper, but we laughed at him, and he had to take his act on the road to places where people hadn't gotten his number yet, or worse, knew very well what he was and loved him for it. The segment of the country that was as crazy as he was. His people, too many of them, for comfort. It was the year of the great battle between deranged fantasy and grey reality. Between, on the one hand, the possibly unknowable but probably existing thing in itself, the world as it was, independently of what was said about it or how it was seen. And on the other, this cartoon character who had crossed the line between the page and the stage, a sort of illegal immigrant, I thought, whose plan was to turn the whole country faux hilariously into a lurid graphic novel, the modern kind, full of black crime and renegade Jews and cocksuckers and cunts, which were words he liked to use sometimes just to give the liberal elite conniptions. A comic book in which elections were rigged and the media were crooked and everything you hated was a conspiracy against you, but in the end, yay, you won. The fright wig turned into a crown and the Joker became the king. It remained to be seen if, come November, the country would turn out to be in a New York state of mind, or if it would prefer to put on the green fright wigs and laugh. Ha, ha, ha.